The Chevy Colorado is classified as a mid-size truck, but when you're in the Colorado ZR2 Bison, you feel anything but mid-size. While everything around us experiences shrinkflation, the tendency to get smaller and more expensive, the ZR2 Bison says, nah, it's time to get bigger. The truck's ride height is massive. Its 35-inch tires are big enough to crush any curb. Climbing into the driver's seat is like taking an elevator to space. And you know what? I like it.
This is the 2024 Chevy Colorado ZR2 Bison, and I'm Alanis King. Let's go for a drive and stick around for the end of this video to get this truck's full report card.
Chevy's been putting trucks on the road for more than 100 years. And back then, they had horsepower figures in the 30s and top speeds in the 20-mile-per-hour range. That means, in the big picture, the Colorado is really young. The Colorado debuted for the 2004 model year, joining the illustrious list of vehicles named after states, like the Pontiac Montana and the Dodge Dakota. All the best stuff is named after places in the United States, which is why my tools say Pittsburgh on them. The Colorado succeeded the beloved Chevy S10, which was Chevy's flagship small truck introduced for the 1982 model year. That truck had a ZR2 model as well, and its aim was similar to this ZR2, to be an off-road focused version of the small truck. Chevy's made 3 generations of the Colorado since its debut. The first was boxy and rectangular, and it ran until 2012. The second started out looking like a Malibu on the front end, then it got some facelifts. It ran until 2022. And the third generation, which is what we're on, began in 2023. I love the front end of the ZR2, but I'm not so hot on some of the lower trims.
That brings us to this monstrosity. And I mean that lovingly. Just look at it. Giant wheels, boron steel skid plates, a useless rearview mirror due to this wheel in the truck bed, and a step up in height so tall you need the flexibility of a professional dancer to get in. I love the ZR2 Bison. It's compromised, but in a cool way. It feels like a modified vehicle, but it comes with a factory warranty. And when I drive it, I feel like I can run over anything. I'm so powerful. But you might ask, Alanis, what makes you feel powerful when you don't have a giant truck? And that is Apex coffee roasters. Apex is fantastic. We drink it all the time while editing these videos, and they support the channel, which is really cool. If you want to try it, you can use code Alanis for 15% off your order.
Chevy trucks are deeply customizable, so we're not going to run through every trim and option. Instead, I'll give you a quick summary of the Colorado lineup. As of right now, all Colorados are 4-door crew cabs with 5-foot beds. They also all have 2.7-liter 4-cylinder engines, but with varying outputs, and 8-speed automatic transmissions. The bottom 2 trims on the Colorado offer either rear-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive, with the base WT trim starting at $31,000 for rear-wheel drive, and the next trim, the LT, starting at $33,500. 4-wheel drive adds about $3,000. The base engine option offers 237 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque, while the step-up makes 310 horsepower and 430 pound-feet. The top 3 trims, the Trail Boss, Z71, and ZR2, are more off-road focused, so they only come with 4-wheel drive. The Trail Boss starts at $39,000, the Z71 starts at $41,000, and they both come with the 310 horsepower engine. The ZR2 starts at $48,000.
This truck also has the 310 horsepower 4-cylinder engine. Chevy calls it the TurboMax, which means it's turbocharged. Woo! And all that power goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission to all 4 wheels. This truck weighs 5,300 pounds, which means it's not that fast on the road. It gets to 60 miles per hour in the 7-second range. And what's so funny about this truck is you open up the hood and you look inside, and it's so clean and geometric looking, and the actual engine is so small compared to the rest of the truck. This truck also gets 16 miles per gallon in the city, 16 on the highway, and 16 combined. The V8 Silverado gets 15 in the city, 20 on the highway, and 17 combined. And it has 4 more cylinders. This ride height comes at a price on both your fuel economy and your wallet. This Colorado has what's called a ZR2 Bison package. It's a $12,000 option, and it beefs this truck up even more for off-roading. It does that by adding a bunch of little features. Those features include multimatic jounce control dampers like these. If you're wondering what jounce means, it's a combination between jolt and bounce, and these are meant to control that. These blue anodized cylinders work like bump stops to limit suspension travel on extreme compression. So if you take your ZR2 Bison off a big jump, your back and your truck will not hate you. Another Bison feature is this vertical mounted spare tire carrier, which makes great use of the bed space, but completely blocks your rear view when you're driving. This is a $12,000 view right here. There are also 35-inch tires compared to 33 on the regular ZR2. All-weather floor liners, that front skid plate, and a bunch of add-ons from AEV. AEV stands for American Expedition Vehicles, a manufacturer of off-road products since the 1990s. And the AEV parts on this truck include this front bumper, this rear bumper, and skid plates on the differential, as well as the transfer case and the fuel tank. A skid plate protects vehicle parts in case there's contact with the ground. So if you scrape while off-roading, you're scraping the plate instead of your truck parts.
This truck also has $1,500 in convenience features like a heated steering wheel and wireless charging, as well as a $1,000 power sliding glass sunroof, $950 in safety features like adaptive cruise control, $500 in underbody cameras so you can see what's going on under you while you're off-roading, $395 glacier blue metallic paint, and more.
That brings the total price of this truck to $65,125, including $17,000 in options. And you know, that's actually cheaper than I expected. I guessed it was $72,000. That very detailed breakdown of this truck brings me to my favorite part of any car review. How many Alanises can fit in this Chevy Colorado ZR2's truck bed? But before we do that, let's test a couple other features. Is this a soft open tailgate? It is. And then once that tailgate opens, we have these convenient little latches that we can move. And we have a little compartment right here that would maybe fit a camera tripod, but there's water in there, so I wouldn't put anything too important. My turn. There goes my phone. Now, Alanis is too tall for the truck bed, but if I sat up like this, you could probably fit 2 of me right here and 2 of me right here. So, I'm gonna give this truck bed 4 to 4.5 Alanises. To show just how large this truck is, I brought a prop. You might be wondering, Alanis, can you even see the Mazda speed from the driver's seat of that truck? If it was at a stoplight next to you, would you know it was there? And the answer is that I can see about that much of it. After you make the giant leap into this vehicle, first thing you notice is that although this truck is huge from the outside in height, you get in, and there's not that much headroom. I'm on the lowest seating setting right now, and I'm 5'8.5". So if you're taller than me, you're gonna be getting close to the ceiling of this truck. Also, the passenger seat does not have a vertical adjustment like I have over here. So they cannot get lower, whereas I can. And look at me. I'm so close to the ceiling, I might be able to hit it. I'm hitting it as the seat gets taller. Oh my goodness. I guess the good thing is this truck is friendly if you're short. And remember that vertical mounted tire from the back of the truck that will come back to haunt us? It's here. I look in the rearview mirror. That is all I see. If there are cars behind you, you are too tall and you have too little room to even know that they're there. And the thing that is so puzzling to me about this rearview mirror is that it's just a mirror. There is no rearview camera. And GM products have this. The C8 Corvette, the normal setting is to have a video feed as the rearview mirror. So why in a car with no rear view would you not have a video feed? Another thing I find so pleasantly surprising about the interior of this truck is that it looks and feels really, really nice. The materials contrast, but they also carry through the entire cabin, and they feel good too. The wireless phone charger has a camo print on it. So does the dashboard, camo print. We have this light leather material and lime green stitching. It's amazing. It looks so nice in here. You also have stitching on the headrest. It just looks so cohesive, but also kind of fun and adventure-y. The next thing I want to talk about is the driver instrument cluster and the infotainment screen. And I really like this setup we have going here because I think it portrays a lot of information in a really digestible way. There are high contrast graphics. You have all kinds of off-road gauges you can look at. It just looks nice. And when you start the car up, it has this really animated gold Chevy logo thing that just looks nice and high-end, and I like it. A couple of things about these displays though. One, we have tons of cameras all over this vehicle for off-roading and other things, right? But there's no physical control to bring up those cameras. So you have to, if you're in CarPlay, say, you have to go to the home screen and then hit camera to get there. You cannot get there with a physical control right here. But once you're there, you can just go through all the different off-roading cameras and everything you need, and it's really cool, right? And you can also wash them, which is super fun. Let me bring up a camera you can wash. Come on, come on. Ooh, ready, ready. We're gonna wash the camera. Oh, how fun was that? Another thing that's weird about the interior of this truck is that I went to turn the headlights on the other day when we were filming, and there was no headlight control. There was no stalk. There was no button anywhere down here because you have to do it in the infotainment screen. So if you want anything other than auto, you have to go up here to do it. Hope your infotainment screen doesn't go out. If you thought getting in the front of this truck was difficult, the seats in the back are even higher up because we have stadium seating. So if you're thinking about putting your kids back here, good luck, because they're gonna need to know how to climb. What do I notice when I'm back here? The stadium seating gives me even less headroom. So if you have tall friends and you need to put them in the back, they're gonna be up on the ceiling like that. Ouch. Another thing about the back seat is that while you have USB-C and USB-A charging ports, you do not have your own climate control. So whatever those two in the front say, that's what you're getting back here. You just have a vent on each side, and that's all you get. This is a very simple back seat, but I really do like the stadium seating back here. I feel like stadium seating in general just makes you feel more like you're part of the conversation with the people in the front seat. When you don't have that raised seating in the back, you very much feel like the front seat is kind of a wall in front of you, and you just don't feel very connected with these people. When you can see what's going on, you feel really connected to them. The problem is, it doesn't leave you with a lot of headroom. Before we hop inside this truck, I want to say the Colorado ZR2 Bison is meant for off-roading. And while we're working on a place to go off-roading for reviews in the future, we don't have that settled quite yet. So what we're going to do today is I will drive it over some big dips to get out of here and get on the road, but we're mainly going to talk about how this truck drives on the road today. So I'm going to tag in my friends at Road and Track to tell you what this feels like off-road. They wrote, I quote, "When the going gets rough, the position-sensitive dampers maintain a firm grip on the terrain, soaking up harsh impacts but still communicating a lot of information from the surface." As for me, I'm mostly going to tell you what this feels like on-road. Because let's be honest, you're going to take it to the grocery store too. So right now we are in 4 high. We're using 4-wheel drive, not 2-wheel drive, because when you start the truck up, it starts up in 2-wheel drive. So you switch it over to 4-wheel drive and you get on these little nasty bumps and it just absorbs them. It's so cool. Watch. We're just bouncing right over all these bumps and dips. We just went over a big one right there. You're probably not even seeing very much because I'm not moving very much over these dips. This truck can just take it. And I think that's the really cool thing about off-road vehicles is that, you know, on-road performance, they're fine, they work. But when you get them off-road, they just feel like such a feat of human engineering. I'm gonna take off my glasses and pop on the camera. So I can also turn on these cameras. I have my underbody cameras, I have my camera in front of me and stuff like that. And I can just see all of these different angles around the truck to help me navigate or monitor things or do whatever I need to do. And it's awesome. It just gives you so much information because when you're off-roading, a big thing is you're at a wild angle. Right now I am looking straight down at the ground, but I can't see the ground because the truck is in front of it. I turn on my little front-facing camera and I can see the ground perfectly. And we're about to go into a literal creek. Boom! Look at that dip. We just take it, we absorb it, and we come out the other side. Oh, what a beast. Again, it's not hardcore, but it's so cool when you take a vehicle out on some really rough terrain and you're like, wow. Like right now I'm going over such a bumpy area and you can feel the bumps under you, right? So the bumps are just under you, but they kind of just like vibrate under you, right? Like it doesn't really disrupt the vehicle. You can just feel the vehicle just taking them and calming them down. All right, let's do it again. Now the one thing that you notice when you're driving this vehicle around in circles to continue to go over the same bumps and dips is the turning radius. Just the normal turning radius on this truck is like a bus. Oh my, it's a huge turning radius. It's actually kind of funny. I don't even consider that a con because it's funny how big the turning radius is. And you know, you could call the turning radius a con when you're in the city. Like, oh, I want to make a U-turn and it's impossible. You can just cross the curb. You've got 35-inch tires. It doesn't matter. Okay, we're going back in the creek. It's a dried up creek, but we're going back in the creek. Ready? Plop, there's the creek. We're in the creek right now. The back wheels are gonna hit the creek now. Doesn't even matter. The truck doesn't even care. The truck's like, yeah, what else you got? This is boring. Off-road vehicles are so cool. You just feel the magic of having that off-road suspension where you can feel the ground under you, right? The ground is communicating with you, but you feel that really harsh action stopping underneath you. It's almost like being in a massaging seat and the massaging seat is moving underneath you, but it's not disrupting you, right? Doesn't even bother it. And I think the cool thing about when you come up from a big dip in an off-road vehicle is that the hood is always so big and you're facing the sky and it kind of just feels like you're on an amusement park ride. You're like, wow, we're just going up to the top of the coaster. Anyway, we're gonna take this thing on road now and I'm gonna tell you about it there. It's time to drive the Chevy Colorado ZR2
Bison. And now that we've already gone through a dried up creek, right? We hardcore off-roaded it. Just kidding, we off-roaded it to our abilities right now because that's all we have access to. I'm just gonna drive it around town, commute, tell you what it's like to do that, because people who own this truck are going to off-road it and they're gonna drive it around town. And I feel like that's the most practical thing to do right now. So it's what we're gonna do. And when you're driving around town, the most immediate thing you notice in this truck is just how large it is. I am so tall. I pull up next to a giant new Ford F-150 and we are on eye level, right? I pull up next to a crossover or SUV, they are below me. I pull up next to a car, it's like they're not even there. I have to sit up and look down to even see what's going on next to me. This truck is so tall that if it didn't have a bunch of cameras everywhere, it would be very hard to maneuver. And I think that's kind of the blessing and the curse of modern vehicles, is that modern vehicles keep getting bigger. But we're able to counteract that by the fact that we have so many beeps and so many cameras and so many things you can see. If everybody was driving a vehicle of this size like 40 years ago, no one would know what was going on around them, because it's so big. This vehicle is so big. And the cameras help you park and they help you see what's next to you. They help you see what's under you. It's like driving with some sort of visual aid at all times. And it's what you need in a truck of this size when other vehicles are quote unquote normal next to it. Okay, it's time to accelerate. You ready? Well, it's kind of loud, but it's not that fast. It'll get you up to speed just fine, and there's a very noticeable point at which the turbo kicks in, right? So when you drive a vehicle that has a turbocharger, there's a term called turbo lag. Turbo lag is that time that the turbocharger is spooling before it's given you the advantage of having a turbocharger. And you really feel that when you hit the gas in this car, because you hit the gas and for probably 1.5 to 2 seconds, it's just like, but it's not going anywhere. And you hear, and then it goes, and it starts going forward, not super fast, but it starts going forward faster than it was. You know, it'll get you up to speed. It's fine. It's not meant to be a fast vehicle. You're not speed racering over here. You're going over bumps and dips and jumps and everything, and this truck is really good at that. It's kind of funny when you floor it. At high speeds, there is not a lot of road noise. I'm on a very rough patch of road right now, and there's nothing. Perhaps that's really good sound deadening. Perhaps that's the fact that I'm on 35-inch tires and I'm so far from the road that it couldn't scream at me and get my attention. But there is a little bit of wind noise. I find that when a vehicle has wind noise, you really hear it up here in this corner. You hear it at the top of your ear, right? And there is wind noise. I'm going 51 miles per hour right now, and there's just like this little... But it's very soft. If you had the radio on, you wouldn't even notice it. Really, this is such a luxurious ride because it's built to be a good ride off-road. Therefore, you get on road and you're like, I'm the king of the world. There are no bumps out here. There are no jumps, no dips, no nothing. I am just riding on air. And that's what it feels like. 35-inch tires to me, there's something magical about 35-inch tires. And you might go, Alanis, that is the most American, make everything bigger statement you have ever said. But when you're on massive tires, like you have on this truck or on the Bronco or something, there's just something about it. Those big, chunky tires that make you super tall, where you're just like, yeah, look at me. I don't know what it is. It's weird. I think the biggest downside of this vehicle is the fact that despite it having an inline-4 turbo, the gas mileage is so atrocious that when I'm sitting here at a stoplight or I need to get in the car because it's 100-something degrees outside because I'm in Texas and I need to sit in the car for 2 minutes. I feel guilt about that. I feel like I am wasting fuel, wasting money, because I'm sitting in this car that's wasting so much gas. 16 combined from an inline 4 turbo, to me, is just, it makes my jaw drop. This gets worse gas mileage than a V8 Silverado. That's terrifying, right? But also, is it a really cool truck? Yeah. Is it a little weird that I get 16 miles per gallon and people go, oh, what kind of engine's in that thing? And I have to go, inline 4, buddy. You know, it's a very, very cool truck. There just is a sort of pride with having a bigger engine that you don't get from this, and yet you have to pay for big engine fuel economy because you're just riding up high. It's an interesting thing to experience. I don't think I've ever thought about it until getting in this truck and going, wow, it is weird to have an engine that you would associate with better fuel economy get terrible fuel economy. It's just weird. It's odd. One big downside that I have experienced in vehicles, particularly trucks, since driving the Tesla Cybertruck of all things, is the fact that they don't have steer-by-wire. And hear me out. You can criticize steer-by-wire. You can say that's scary technology. Basically, if you don't know how steer-by-wire works, it's in a regular vehicle, steering is connected to the wheels mechanically. You have shafts that connect steering to wheels. Steer-by-wire means this wheel would be connected to a wire, which then communicates to a motor to tell the wheels what to do. That allows you to have variable steering, which means you can do a little bit of input, and the truck or whatever vehicle has steer-by-wire decides how much input translates to the wheels. So if you're low speeds, parking in a parking lot, and you just give a little bit of input, steer-by-wire can take that input and make it a lot bigger on the wheels so that's easier to turn. So when I was in the Tesla Cybertruck and I was trying to park this massive vehicle, the steer-by-wire made it so much better because I didn't have to just crank the wheel 20 times. I find when I park this truck, I'm cranking the wheel this way, I'm cranking the wheel back, and I sit there and I go, that steer-by-wire in the Cybertruck was sick. And if you're scared of steer-by-wire, if you go, oh, I don't want my steering connected by a wire. Tesla said there are redundancies built in, so if something fails, something else will catch it, and you won't lose steering, and if you do lose steering, the truck will slow down and do whatever. If you're still terrified of that, there are steer-by-wire systems that have backup mechanical systems, right? And I think that would be so good. Steer-by-wire in trucks, because I just think back to that Cybertruck and I think about parking this vehicle and how I have to turn it to do anything, and it's a chore, right? I'll do a turn right here and I'll show you how much it needs to be cranked, right? So we crank, 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 crank just to make a turn. That's so much cranking of the wheel. I think all trucks can learn from that, and it would be great. But aside from that, I mean, what a truck. This thing is awesome. I really wish I had it for like 3 more weeks. I could go travel to a dedicated off-road spot and just rip this thing, because modern off-road technology is so cool and so capable. And I would love to do that. But for now, just taking you around town, and it's not too bad at that either. Now that we've driven the 2024 Chevy Colorado ZR2 Bison, it's time to give it a grade. Welcome to Alanis' report card. The exterior of this truck gets an A-. Is it a little big and a little goofy? Yes. But do I love it? Yeah, it looked really cool. The interior also gets an A-. For a long time, I didn't really drive modern GM products, but I've driven a few lately, and I've been impressed by every single interior. The C8 Corvette, beautiful. The GMC Hummer EV, beautiful. This truck, beautiful.
It only gets docked a little bit because of that hard plastic on the doors. I don't really know what's up with that. Performance also gets an A-. I have heard that this truck is wonderful off-road, and I'm going to trust my colleagues. On-road, it loses a little bit because it's just so tall and a little bit sluggish when you want to accelerate. Value, I give this truck a B+. $65,000 is a lot of money for a mid-sized truck, but it's also cheaper than I expected it to be, so that's a win. Would I take this ZR2 Bison on a road trip? I would if it was the only vehicle I owned. If I owned something else, I would take that because this thing is getting 16 miles per gallon, and that is not great. Overall, this truck gets an A-. It's a little silly, but it's supposed to be, and I love it.
The Colorado ZR2 Bison is for a very specific crowd. It's an off-roader, not a grocery getter, although it can and will be used for the latter. You need to be flexible and spry to even think about getting into it. And if you care about seeing out your rear window or seeing the tiny Miata next to you, just get another car.
But if you're the right audience for this ZR2 Bison, it will serve you so perfectly. And that sounds like a great buying decision to me.